and then just clip that into your back pocket.
How you doing?
Okay.
Just okay?
Pardon me?
Just okay?
I'm good.
What's your name?
Angie.
Angie, James.
Okay.
Welcome. Huh?
I'm waiting for a friend too.
Yeah, good. Back pocket.
I'm Lori. Lori, again.
Lori and Gary. Yeah.
Gary and Lori.
Did you just start coming or you've been here for a while?
We came to visit last week.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you came back. We didn't scare you away.
That sounded good.
Good.
Do you live in the neighborhood? Oh, I'm in Lincoln.
Oh, yeah, you're over near, kind of near us. We're in Rose.
And I come down this way to go to North Highlands to visit my son.
Hello. We've been waiting on you. I'm James, Lori, and Gary. Tina, good to meet you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. What do you think? Should we go? Oh, we got audio. Put it in my back pocket. It's so hard because I keep my wallet in my back pocket. All right, I'll put it in the pocket. Well, nope, that means I can keep this here. And I got my cursor here. I can go up and down, all that other good stuff.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Point Church. We're actually going live, so we're being broadcast all over the world. All over the world. So my name is James Jenkins. So welcome to the Point Church. Today we're going to go through, as you probably already heard, defeating Darwinism. And you guys familiar with apologetics, the term? Anyway, it comes from 1 Peter 3:15. It says we should always be ready to give an answer for the hope that we have within us, but do so in gentleness and respect. And so we're going to tackle this subject, defeating Darwinism. I'll call it defeating Darwinism because it conflicts with our Bible. So we had to figure out which ones we're going to follow and why, and put everything in its proper context in this. Okay? So actually, it conflicts with science. Believe it or not. I like the way you smiled there, Lori. So my first question is we want to answer is welcome. Hey guys. You guys are cheating sitting way in the back. So the first question we're going to answer is, who is Charles Darwin? And then we're going to talk about what is Darwinism, and take these glasses off. I might put them back on and off sometime. So Charles Darwin was born February 12th in 1909 and lived to April of 1809, and lived to 1892. He was an English naturalist, geologist, biologist, and he was widely known for his contributions to evolutionary biology. His proposition is that all species of life have descended from a common ancestor, and is now generally accepted and considered as a fundamental scientific concept. He introduced his scientific theory, that is the branching pattern of evolution resulting from a process called natural selection. That's a word you might want to keep in your head, natural selection. And in which the struggle for existence has a similar effect to the artificial selection involved in selective breeding. Anybody here know about breeding animals, dogs, anything like that? Yeah. So we'll cross-reference that a few times here. Darwin has been described as one of the most influential figures in human history and was honored with a burial at Westminster Abbey. Now, he was obviously in England because that's where he was born. But, so that is Charles Darwin, and we're going to go into his theory. What is Darwinistic evolution? So Darwinistic evolution, well, when we go into the subject, we have to ask what do we mean by evolution? Okay, I term it Darwinist. I'll get this right eventually, after a cup of coffee. Darwinian evolution, because there's two different types of evolution. There's evolution that just means change over time, means people get taller or lighter or darker over time. Just happens, okay? And then there's another type of evolution that Darwin presented, which is that things change from one species to another. We came from lower life forms. Matter of fact, let me get in my notes here. I'm sorry about that. We evolved from, like it's just said, a common ancestor over a period of time into what we are today. We came from lower species through mutations and became what we are today without any intelligence involved. And if you think about it, that word right there, if you keep that concept in the front of your mind, without any intelligence, we just came to be as we are today. You look confused a little bit there. You're with me? I just want to make sure you're tracking because you look a little confused about it. Anyway, that's basically Darwinian evolution, that we came from lower species, we came from lower life forms, and over time we kept evolving until we got where we are today. All right. So, we're going to talk about science and what is a theory. This is a theory, number one. So, theories need good evidence, and they also need good arguments to show that they're true, or at least has a possibility of being true. So Darwinistic evolution has neither, okay? And I'm not just going to say that. And also we need to understand, I just made an assertion. You need to understand when you lift it up when you hear what they call an assertion. I just made an assertion. I said it's not true, but I got to back that up with facts, theory, and good arguments. So right now it's an assertion. So that's good. Thank you. Everybody good? So we got a theory. It needs other stuff besides a theory. It needs some facts behind it, and it needs facts, and it needs good arguments behind it. So, and let me get my notes here. Sorry about that, guys. So, we're going to find out, and if you listen up very well, you'll hear where Darwinian evolution is filled with assertions. Everybody know what assertion is? It's like when your mom and dad says, "Because I said so." Okay? It's like, why do I have to take out the garbage? Because I said so. That's an assertion, okay? So don't fight them, by the way. Don't fight your mom and dad when they say that. Just go with it. Don't say, "Dad, give me a good argument," because he's going to say, "Because if you don't do it, I'm going to whoop your butt," or the garbage will fill up. So that's an argument. But just hearing what is an assertion and what is a good argument. So good arguments and assertions. So so we're going to look at some of the evidence and the arguments both ways and why we don't think it's tenable. So first we're going to go into science a little bit here because we have to understand the science. This is a one-celled amoeba, and notice it doesn't say made by God or made by natural forces on it. So we have to look at it and figure out where it came from and how it came to be. What is science? Science is a search for causes. Now, there's two types of causes that we find in nature, what they call a natural or non-intelligent cause, or let me see if I can get this. I need a wireless one here so I can move this. We can have natural causes. Caitlin, how you doing? Or we can have intelligent causes, and we need to recognize the difference between natural causes and intelligent causes. Jumped ahead a little bit here. Grand Canyon. This is what they call a natural cause. What caused the Grand Canyon? Just water naturally just flowing through here for years and years and years and years caused a canyon. Dug it deeper. That's called a natural cause. And then we have what they call intelligent cause. We can know the difference between the Grand Canyon and the Mount Rushmore because we know we have who do we have? Lincoln, Jefferson. Help me out here, guys. Roosevelt and Lincoln. Thank you. And so we can see someone probably got up here and carved these, and it didn't happen by natural cause. This is intelligent cause. We know we had a sculptor that did these. So Mount Rushmore, we got one intelligent, one natural cause. Statue here, obviously it's a natural cause. What is caused in the past? What caused an unseen past event today is the same thing what causes an unseen past event today in the past. They're the same. So we know these had what they call an intelligence designer. We know somebody carved and sculpted these statues. So this is called the principle of uniformity, where I was alluding to, and it's that I just stumbled over, and that is whatever caused something in the past would have the same kind of cause today. And that's we have to do that and have that to have science. So what is the cause of the first simple life? The reason we put this in quotes is because at the time when Darwin looked into a cell or looked into the amoeba, this is a one-celled amoeba, the technology, we didn't have the technology to look really deep into the cell and know that this is nothing simple about a one-celled amoeba. It's he couldn't see that at the time. So Darwin had a little bit of an excuse. So today, in the past, so this is so complex when we start looking inside of these that we start realizing that this is not simple, and it took intelligent design, and we're going to go into some of this. It took some kind of intelligence to build the first life, to make it come about. So there's two types of science. So when we talk about science, we have to understand, because I talk to people about this all the time, and you have to define your terms is the first thing you have to do. We talked about defining our term, what we mean by evolution. I use Darwinian evolution and then just evolution. And now we're going to define our terms when we talk about the two types of science. There's empirical science, where we do experiments, and then there's forensic science. You guys probably recognize forensic science in things like murders, death. We've got a body laying there. We got to find out how it got there, whether it died by natural causes, or was it killed, was it murdered, or was it an accident? And they look at all the details around it to find out what caused it. So empirical studies, and we got the studies of the past. So obviously this goes over how life operates, and this is how life originated is what we're talking about. Things that happened in the past, these are repeatable, and obviously in the past we have things that can't be repeated. Okay, so if we're talking about, let's say, the origin of the universe, or origin of the first life, or a murder that happened 2 weeks ago, or a murder that happened 5 years ago, we're looking at all the circumstances around it and trying to figure out what is the most likely cause that made it happen. So we have to we're looking at forensic things, because I talk to people and sometimes in debating this, and they'll confuse the two. And so we have to make sure we're talking about, you'll hear them say, hey, these things can be repeated. And we're talking about God. We're talking about Genesis and the creation. It's like, it's an event that can't be repeated, but we can look at those events and surmise and use our minds and say, hey, you know what was the most likely cause of this order of the universe, which I get into in another section. So let's keep rolling. So we can verify the data, and this, we have to interpret the data. So Everybody tracking with me on this? All right. This is everybody familiar with this guy? Richard Dawkins. He's one of the most famous you went yes? Yeah, he's one of the most famous atheists in the world. He's a biologist, and he says this statement. There's a reason we know for certain that we are all related when it comes to this subject, including bacteria, is the universality of the genetic code and other biochemical fundamentals. My philosophical commitment is to materialism and reductionism is true. But I would prefer to characterize it as a philosophical commitment to a real explanation as opposed to complete lack of explanation, which is what you espouse. We're talking about intelligent, we call it intelligent design, or God, some intelligent being like God created the first life. Anybody see any assertions in here? Class participation moment. There's a big assertion right in the middle. It's highlighted in yellow. It's an assertion. Yeah. He says, my philosophical commitment to materialism is true. That is like saying, hey, you take out the garbage because I told you to take it out. So after you start looking at this, you'll start noticing these all throughout this subject with folks on the other side of it, and that you'll talk to. And we take it for granted because it hasn't been challenged. It's been challenged, but it's asserted pretty much. But he has a philosophical commitment, and that's the key, one of the other key terms. He's already made up his mind, whereas science is a search for causes, and even our faith is a search for truth. So we approach it with an open mind. I go through this whole course. I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. Basically, what we want to do is say, look, I'll follow the evidence wherever it leads. I also will say that our Christianity depends on evidence. We all have to have faith in something. And so our Christianity depends on evidence, and we know exactly what will make it false. So we also have to have what they call this has to be falsifiable. We have to understand what would make it false. And with Christianity, we know exactly, the Bible tells us. If Christ didn't rise from the dead, we're all wasting our time. So if a dead body of Jesus is found somewhere, we know that Christianity is not true. Okay, so we're like, hey, if I'll give up Christianity, I'll say I'm wasting my time if somebody produces a dead body of Jesus over 2,000 years. It hasn't happened. So, we got, anyway, our faith is in something solid. So we want to do the same thing in this. And so science is built on philosophy. A lot of people think science is only, anybody familiar with Neil deGrasse Tyson? You probably are. I know you are. I can tell you. That head shaking over there. He's a astrophysicist, but he makes a lot of religious statements. Have you noticed that? Are you you're in tune with that? He makes a lot of religious statements, in that when I say a religion, like science is a religion. And matter of fact, he said in one of his statements, I'm going to paraphrase this. I have it in my slide somewhere, but he says basically, I like science because I don't need faith in science. It's actual knowledge. Yeah, he says that. And so, and I'll tell you how I dealt with that a little bit later, but I love science. Let's put it this way: it puts too much weight on science. It puts too much weight on it. It can't handle it, and I'll show you why later on. If I forget, you remind me. What's your name? Alan. Yeah, you remind me, okay? If I come back to that. So we have. Science is built on philosophy, that we have natural laws. We have what they call the law of causality. We talked about uniformity. These are all things that are used in science. They're immaterial. They are the laws of logic. We need logic to do science. You have to use reason to do science. You have to know why what you're looking for, how to interpret the data, free will to do the science. You can take some pictures of these if you want. I see you over there writing furiously. Yeah. Realism, morality. You have to be honest to be a scientist. I told somebody this one day. I said, "Look, I said we were talking. We happened to be talking about teachers, but and I can use the same thing for scientists. Science. Uh, Scientists. Let me try to remember how I made this argument. All humans are fallible. Teachers, scientists, whoever you category you want to say are human. They're fallible, and so we have to hold everybody accountable to because if you give one person all the authority, Bible says we're all fallible, so we have to have checks and balances. We were happened to be talking about teachers in one subject I was talking to someone recently about. So during science uses philosophy to determine the rules of science and to interpret their data. I don't know if you can see that, Gary, but yeah. So they interpret the data. We have to get a wireless mouse here. Atheism or materialism, that means everything is made of material. That's what atheism leads to. It means that there's no immaterial things out there in the universe. There's only hard stuff that you can touch, feel, taste, and what else I'm missing? And there's only hard stuff, that we can experience through our senses, let's call it. So these are things you can't. So the real incompatibility is not between science and atheism, but between science and atheism. Not between science and theism, but science is atheism. Theism means belief in God. Theism explains what science requires: a rational, intelligent universe with order and measurability and human free will. So let's keep going here. So it makes these things impossible. So evolution. Okay. So we talked about it earlier. There's two defining our terms. Evolution, basically there's two central arguments for evolution. One is called small adaptations that lead to new life forms. That's called macroevolution. Macroevolution is another word for Darwin. I use them interchangeably. Darwinian evolution. Micro is just changes over time. So this is one of their first arguments that we come across. Hey, you know what? There's similarities in all human living things. A fish. We all have DNA. What else? Amoeba or whatever. So we have we have some similarities. Also similarities in structure. I'm going to skip over some of these. Does evolution occur? Now, we talk about, and I alluded to, you got a dog like that or something? What? Yeah. Yeah. So, I haven't had dogs, but it looks mean to me. But anyway, cats look mean.
Its poor little nose.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys got me laughing. Anyway, was Darwinism wrong? Okay, so we talk about does evolution occur? Dog breeding they use dog breeding as one of their examples of evolution because you can breed dogs and get bigger, stronger, faster dogs, and so they use this as an example. But breeding is obviously over a short time versus what we say thousands or millions of years or whatever you want to call them. And macroevolution, what they're arguing for, happens over a extremely long period of time. But we run into limits with breeding. There's only so far you can go and these people are using intelligence to breed dogs, okay? Remember that. You okay with me, Gary? Now, so if that has limits and you're using intelligence, how can non-intelligence exceed them and we get all this complexity with no intelligence involved? It just happens on its own. So a lot of this, you use your common sense. I see you over here shaking your head. You can use your common sense to work through some of these things. Okay, so It's like, so this is probably one of your key questions here when you're talking to someone about this. If we have limits over here, how can non-intelligence exceed them? You're telling me through just happens by chance. I'm gonna skip through this. This is an example of, again, birds. What's it called? The finch, I think it was. They're anyway.
Yeah, the finches.
Yeah. The other thing is, you, like I said, it's very limited what they're talking about. Some of these are cyclical. They happen when weather changes and things like that to help them survive. But it's never changing from one thing. And then, by the way, you always have dogs when they intelligent breed intelligently or breed with intelligence. They always have dogs. You never get something else.
Right?
Yeah.
And the finches were still finches.
The finches are still finches.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we have to clarify their argument, what they're making. Who's getting hot now? I'm gonna go down a couple notches if you don't mind on it, because I'm getting hot. I got it. Thank you. Okay, here we go. But the other question is, where did the finch come from? So again, microevolution is within types. Yes, things can change. We can mess around with the breeds and do some things with them. Across types, never been observed in nature, and we're going to get into this a little bit deeper here in just a second. So, similarities in structure. This is called homology. DNA are evidences for a common ancestry. Every living thing has DNA in it. It's a code, and I always say codes, and all of our known experiences, they come from minds. The DNA is not just a simple code, as we're going to talk about. It is a extremely complex code. All the letters are just lined up perfectly in your DNA, that code. And if they're out of order, we're messed up. We have all kind of deformities and everything. So again, evidence for macroevolution. The reason we know for certain we are related, including bacteria, is a university of the genetic code and other biochemical fundamentals. That's Richard Dawkins again, talking to Philip Johnson, who's a Christian in the same field. I have some of his books as well. I'm going to skip through this one. I'm going to skip most of this, but I'll just say this. The DNA similarity could be evidence of this is what they don't consider, a common designer rather than a common ancestor. So just how you interpret this data, it can be interpreted two different ways. You can say, well, we all have a common ancestor, or we can have a common creator, or the same whoever did this. I'm not even going to say it's God right now. This just for sake of argument. Now, this is known as what they call Barrett's blunder. So when they were over the last 160 years while they've been arguing about this, forget this guy's first name, Tim Barry, yeah. He offered a progression of the Corvette. Anybody Corvette fan like me? I've had 3 of them, yeah. He had made an argument. It's kind of funny when you think of this, but he made an argument based on the progression of the Corvette as descent without modification. And there's one problem with this illustration. Who could pick it out? It's really easy. They're cars, and what?
Intelligent.
Cars are designed in a factory. Yes, they didn't just happen by itself. So they call this Barrett's blunder. They call it, and they says, well, this is a bad argument basically, because cars don't build themselves, and somebody designed this. Yeah, intelligent design. So anyways, and anyway, Darwinists must explain the dissimilarity between living things: the bee, the octopus, the Venus, the fly trap, all these things. That's what they have to explain. It's the dissimilarity that is not discussed usually in those fields. So this is a type. What they call, you ever heard of? Anybody familiar with circular arguments? So okay, well, circular arguments, they go in a circle. So they'll say, well, DNA and homology. Why is Darwinian evolution true? They say, well, and they said, well, what does that got to do with anything? Well, that means we have a common ancestor. You say, well, why not a common designer? And they said, well, because evolution is true. We're back to an assertion here, and then how do you know evolution is true? And then they go back over here. This is called circular reasoning. So it just goes in a circle if you start asking these questions. By the way, one of the best things you can do is start asking people questions when you start getting into these types of conversations as well. So circular reason goes in a circle. So there's some things that this is again. We pick on him a lot, I know, because he's. I'm gonna start picking on what's his name? I just named his Tyson. Yeah, I'm gonna start picking on him too in another presentation I'm gonna put together. Huh? Not Mike Tyson. No. But we're gonna knock him out like Mike Tyson. So so this is called naturalistic philosophy designed as science. The reason we know for certain, and look at the highlighted ones I got here, we're all related, include bacteria, the university of the genetic code, that we talked about that. And we talk about his commitment. But I would prefer, so here we back to the same statement that we went over earlier. He says he's ruled it out beforehand, therefore what they call begging the question. Anybody know what begging the question means? It means you're assuming what you're trying to prove. You're just assuming that it's true. They just talk right past it. And but he's ruled it out in advance. This is not science. This is cultish religion is what it is like. Okay. Einstein, one of the great statements, he said, the man of science is a poor philosopher. And you'll find that with not only with Dawkins, but you'll find it with Neil deGrasse Tyson. I started collecting a lot of his quotes because they're so fun to walk through, and you can just point out how easily defeatable they are when you start looking at them. So we believe in following the evidence where it leads. Fossils. So one of your biggest arguments in defeating Darwinism is looking at the facts, looking at the fossil record. So we have a record in the fossils that for 165 years, it's an easy number for when I was putting this together last night. I says, how long has when did Darwin come out with his philosophy? It's been 100 years before I was born. I was born in 1959. It was 1859. So 160. Now you guys got my age. 165 years. 65 years old. Anyway, so the fossils. What do they say? Stephen Gould. What's that? Yes, I'm an old man. I'm 65. I'm preserved in fossil. Yeah. No, just kidding. The fossil record, boy, I hate reading these quotes sometimes, but the first uncontested periods of fossil records, 57 years ago, with a bang. So this is talking about anybody familiar with the Cambrian explosion? What? Okay, this is called the Big Bang of biology, okay? Basically, in the Cambrian explosion, this is what he's talking about here, all the life plans appeared in what they call strata or level of dirt as they are today.
Oh, so that's the Big Bang?
It's called the Big Bang of biology.
Of biology.
Yeah. In other words, we find, when they dig through the fossil record, they came across, they call it the Cambrian explosion. All the, most body plans came about abruptly in what they call one strata or one level or layer of the dirt. Thank you very much. The dirt. So this is evidence against Darwinian evolution. We look at the record, and he talks about that. So the Cambrian explosion uprooted it. It says the history of most. It says two features. It says they call it stasis. Okay, most species exhibit no directional change during their tenure on Earth. They appear in the fossil records looking much the same as when they disappear. There's some things that come and go. What they call extinct species, looking the same as when they disappear. Okay. So we don't find this gradual change that if Darwinian evolution is true, we don't see it in the fossil record. There's sudden appearances where species does not arise gradually, but steadily transformation of its end. This is Stephen Jay Gould. He's a quoted all over the place in this stuff. So we have a spotty.
I'm sorry, what was that second point? The first one was stasis, the second one was...
I forgot now. Oh, sudden appearance. Sudden appearance.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to skip through some of this. Did somebody say something to me? How much time?
35.
And we got to what? 10. We good. So the extreme rarity of transitional forms in the fossil record persists as a trade of secret of paleontology. That's the study of the fossils. The evolutionary trees that adorn our textbook have data only at the tips and nodes of their branches. The rest is inference. So, and we got an example of this. So this is what they tell you it looks like. This is what it actually looks like in our fossil record. So in other words, I'm going to back up one, if you catch that. So they're saying we have all these things in the fossil record, and basically they draw these branches in here to make it look like, when I say they, I mean the evolution proponents. But this is what we really have. So we always said there aren't missing links. We're missing a whole chain. Okay. So anybody old enough to remember they talked about they were always in these old movies. They were always looking for the missing link.
Yes.
And they would, if you found it, you'd be like the scientist that found the missing link. You'd be like a million zillionaire because you discovered the missing link. Well, it's never been found. And there's everything that has been found has been either deformities. Some humans that were deformed, or they've been found to be fraudulent because scientists and people in their greed wanted to find the missing link, so they put bones and stuff together, and they discovered that they were just fakes, is what they were. So I got in this conversation with somebody recently, and they were trying to make this, and I just asked him, I said, "Where's the evidence?" I said, "Look," I said, we've been for now 150 years, and we haven't found anything. And by the way, this is a guy who I was talking to on social media one day. He said he was trying to make the case that evolution is true, period. Again, an assertion. And I said, where's the evidence? I said, we've been looking for a missing link for 150 years, and they haven't found one. So me and I'm going to call it, I can be a little bit smart alecky, but I think it was called for. And I said, so wait a minute. I said, so his answer was that we just haven't dug long enough and deep enough. After all, the earth is big and we have a lot of places we can dig. And I said, we've been digging for 150 years. So what you're telling me is that you have faith, and I put it in big letters on social media, if you can imagine. I said, you have faith that you're going to find the missing link. And you hope that they'll find it. Now they laugh at us because they say we've been waiting for 2,000 years for Jesus to come back. I says, how long are you going to wait to find that? Some of you might find that funny when you're on the way home. But anyway, it's a little bit of a dig back at them, but it's true. Everybody has to have faith in something. Matter of fact, this gentleman said, he said, I don't use faith. I use science. I said, no, everybody has faith. I said, let me tell you something. I said, you drive across a bridge when you go to work in the morning? He says, yeah. I says, if you go across that bridge, you haven't tested it. I says, maybe you tested it for some years, but you don't know if the guy who made the bridge was missed a boat or had a bad day when he made it. We don't know. And so everybody has to have faith in something. It's a matter of, is your faith in something solid? That's the question. So, where's I at here? You guys got me sidetracked. So to take this is, I forget who made this. Yeah, Michael Denton. He said to take a line of fossils and claim that they represent a lineage is not a science, but an assertion, we talked about it earlier, that carries the same validity as a bedtime story. Amusing, perhaps even instructive, but not scientific. Henry G., chief scientist writer for Nature. Why? Because 90% of the biology of any organism resides in the soft anatomy, which is inaccessible in the fossil record. So even if you found them, we can't get to the meat because that's or the flesh part of whatever we find because that's gone. So we're only looking at part of it anyway. So what's needed is a complete, fully articulated evolutionary path, not merely possible oasis along the way. To claim otherwise is like saying we can travel by foot from Los Angeles to Tokyo because we've discovered the Hawaiian Islands. So in other words, we need a bridge to make these gaps for Darwinian evolution to be true. Wait a minute. Sorry about that, guys. 10 minutes. All right. I'm going to move through some of this. So this is where we get to a little bit of called intelligent ID or intelligent design, which is a lot of proponents will say, well, this is a step closer. Let's just look at it as some intelligence outside of us designed this to get minds open and just showing that these things are designed, life is, and what they call it, this is called the probability argument. It's more likely that life is designed or product of natural forces. That's a question, I'm sorry. So they must support why it's more likely that life arose by natural forces. TS must support why it is more likely that life arose by intelligent intervention. And since our clock is winding down, I'm just going to go into, again, how unlikely this is. And I got an amusing story for you guys. How many of you guys like stories? Especially that are amusing. This story is called, from the book I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, which is just where this curriculum comes from. Take out the garbage, Mom. Okay? So you might like this. A 16-year-old Johnny came down from his bedroom, stumbled into the kitchen to get a bowl of his favorite cereals, Alphabets. When he got to the table, he was surprised to see that the cereal box was knocked over and the alphabet letters spelled out, "Take out the garbage, Mom," on the placemat. Recalling a recent high school biology lesson, Johnny didn't attribute this message to his mom. After all, he had just been taught that life itself is merely a product of mindless natural laws. If that's the case, Johnny thought, why couldn't a simple message like "Take out the garbage, Mom" be the product of mindless natural laws as well? Don't try this at home. You where was I at here? Maybe the cat knocked over the box or an earthquake shook it. No sense jumping to any conclusions. Johnny didn't want to take out the garbage anyway. He didn't have time for house chores. This was his summer vacation and he wanted to get to the beach. Mary would be there. Since Mary was a Girl Scout, Mary was a Girl Scout-like too, Johnny wanted to make sure he got to the beach to beat Scott there. But when Johnny arrived, he saw Mary and Scott walking hand in hand along the shore. As he followed them at a distance, he looked down in the sand and saw a heart drawn in the sand with the words, "Mary loves Scott," scrawled inside. For a moment, Johnny felt his heart sink, but thoughts of his biology class rescued him from his deep despair. I know, I can't stop laughing whenever I read this. Maybe this is just another case of natural laws at work, he thought. Perhaps sand crabs on the or an unusual wave pattern just happened to have produced this love note naturally. No sense accepting a conclusion that he didn't like. Johnny would just have to ignore the corroborating evidence uh, of the hand holding. Confronted by the fact that the principles learned in his biology class could help him avoid conclusions he didn't like, Johnny decided to lie down for a few minutes and get a little sun. As he put his head back on the towel, he noticed a message in the clouds: "Drink Coke." The white, puffy letters revealed in the sky, the blue sky blue background. Unusual cloud formations, Johnny thought. Swirling winds, perhaps. No, Johnny couldn't play the game denial any longer. Drink Coke was the real thing. A message like that was a sure sign of intelligence. It couldn't be that the result of natural forces, because natural forces have never been observed to create messages. Even though he never saw the plane, Johnny knew there must have been a skywriter up there recently. Besides, he wanted to believe this message. And the hot sun had left him parched, looking for a Coke. So you see how absurd this is. So some other things. We never seen order come from disorder. Okay? So Darwinian evolution would have us believe that things go from disorder to extreme ordered without any intelligence involved. If you leave something alone for so long, if you don't mow your lawn, if you don't tend to your room, it's going to get dusty. It's going to go from order to disorder. And they're expecting us to believe that things just happen by themselves. By random chance, we get the most amazing piece of machinery in the universe, which is us. Now, to finish this off, Darwin himself had two what they call things to say about his philosophy. Number one, it's called Darwin's doubt. You can let this out since we run out of time. But Darwin himself said, if we came from apes or lower forms, he says, why should I believe? After all, it came from the mind of a monkey. Think about that. So it caused him to doubt if his theory. He also said that if it can prove any organism that's found that could come about by slight progressive changes over time, that his theory breaks down. Well, his theory has been broken down. Like I said, we don't have time to go into it. It's called the E. coli bacterium. And this particular organism is really little. It's an amazing piece of organism, a piece of nature. All the pieces had to be there at the same time, all in working order. And this is called irreducible complexity, okay? So if it's evolving, and if it evolved over a slow period of time, how did it evolve if all the parts are independent on each other? And you can say the same thing about our bodies. Okay, if you don't have a fully functioning heart and you don't have a fully functioning kidneys, then what happens? Or fully functioning brain. There's a lot of people walking around with dysfunctional brains. But anyway, we won't go there. But you can see the problems. If you start thinking through these things, you'll just start going, this makes no sense. Now, how much time do we have? A minute? 2 minutes? How are you silly church people going to challenge all this science? Who are you guys to do this? And so I just tell them this, because I get this sometimes. Got this recently. I said, look, this is a matter of common sense. And, you tell me. I mean, I can give you what Darwin said. I'll give you the Darwin quotes. I just gave you 2 of them. But I look at these things, and the person asked me, he said, well, why do you read about these things? I said, because I want to know the truth. You ever tried to quote something to the Bible and they don't believe in the Bible? And you say, well, the Bible says in Genesis that we produce after our own kind. Well, are they going to accept that if they're a non-believer? So our Bible is not a science book, but where it does cross science, it's consistent with the science. So when we go to the science, you make these type of arguments with them. I had a friend of mine recently. He goes, Now you're bringing that religion. I said I haven't mentioned one word about religion. I'm talking about the science. I'm talking about Darwin, what he said. I'm talking about what other paleontologists said, and I'm talking about our own experiences in life. Okay, if you leave something alone, I ask them this. I said, if you put some metal, steel, plastic, and rubber in your backyard and you just leave it there for billions of years, how long would it take before I have a 1969 Mustang Mach 1 with a 428 Cobra jet in? How long would it take? And they said, cars don't build themselves. I said, you're right. I said, so cars don't build themselves. Why would you think something more complex, something as complex as us, or even a single cell could build itself? So these are just arguments that I make to people, and they have no answers for them. But we need to be ready to equip, like First Peter 3:15 says, always be ready to give an answer for the hope that we have within us. So we can go deeper into this, but it gives you some ideas of some things. Hopefully, this was helpful to that you can approach these subjects when they come up, because they will come up. This is taught, by the way, in schools and colleges as fact, as it's not even nothing we can argue about. It's already fact that evolution, Darwinian evolution is true, and they just move on from it. So